This season, Colorado Martini visited Mexico City, where they explored the historical downtown, Aztec ruins and canals, the famous Anthropology Museum, gigantic pyramids, the great food and hotels, and the world of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. In this episode, they will be exploring the home and town of famous artists Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, and take you on an adventure to find legendary murals around the city. So come along with Denise and Patrick as they take you to Ciudad de Mexico and its surrounding areas. So this has Diego Rivera on it, and on the other side it's got Frida Kahlo on the other side. Very cool. Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera were Mexican artists who were married and divorced multiple times. Their relationship was passionate, chaotic, and full of drama. Their art and lives captured the political and social upheaval of the time. Frida grew up in the Mexico City neighborhood Coyoacan. She inherited the house from her parents and lived her entire life in this famous blue villa. Frida is still there. Her ashes are on display in the home. Images of Frida are likely the most recognized in the world. The tour of Frida and Diego's home is one of the most popular tickets in town. You must purchase entry tickets far in advance of your visit. I made the mistake of looking for tickets 2 weeks before my arrival, only to find they were sold out. For this visit, my hotel had to jump through hoops to get us tickets. When you go with a tour, you don't have to wait in this very long line. There's a lot of people. It's very busy. So they call this the Blue House. This was originally her father's house, and she inherited it. The grounds are just beautiful. If you're not going to take a tour, even if you take a tour, buy them well in advance. They sell out every single time. This is the ofrenda for Frida. Wonderful. So her ashes are actually here, which we'll go by. This shows a picture of Frida standing here at this very spot. Frida and Diego Rivera, her husband, used to collect a lot of antiquities, and I think this is part of their collection. There's also a museum that has their collection in it. In 1925, young Frida was in a bus accident that left her with multiple fractures and punctured uterus. The accident transformed her life and inspired her art. She was hospitalized for a month at the Red Cross and spent many months in bed recovering at home. She began painting more frequently while confined to bed. Her paintings became a way for her to separate herself from the pain and emotional stressors of her life. In addition, she suffered multiple miscarriages and was unable to carry a pregnancy to term. Her medical history included polio, a streetcar accident, and a pelvic injury. She also had multiple fractures, a crushed foot, and a permanently dislocated shoulder. To compound things, Diego was not a faithful husband. His extramarital affairs even included Frida's sister, Christina. You can see her emotional and physical pain in most of her art. She had her right leg amputated at the knee in 1953 due to gangrene. The amputation was likely the result of complications from an unnecessary surgery. Frida's health declined in the late 1940s and 1950s. She had many surgeries, including failed spinal surgeries. She also suffered from chronic pain and was mostly bedridden towards the end of her life. Frida Kahlo's cremated remains are memorialized in a pre-Hispanic urn from Diego Rivera's art collection and has become an unlabeled centerpiece in her bedroom. Most visitors stroll by the urn, not realizing this is where Frida is finally resting in peace. I highly recommend watching the 3-part documentary on Frida's tragic life on PBS. Watching the documentary before my visit gave me a sense of connection with Frida and her pain. Her art had a whole new meaning to me. Before you leave Coyoacan, you should visit the lively marketplace just around the corner from Frida's house. We're at the Museum of Murals, and we're here to see Diego Rivera's murals. My daughter and I were on a hunt throughout our visit to Mexico City for Diego Rivera murals. Unfortunately, some of his more famous murals are in the presidential palace in a patio and stairwell. Normally, they are accessible to the public, but due to political unrest at the time of our visit, we did not have access to these murals. But we did find several of his murals at the Mural Museum down the street. A movement began in the 1920s with artists painting large murals filled with political messages after the Mexican Revolution. Diego Rivera was just one artist in this movement. Diego Rivera was a prominent figure in Mexican muralism. Similar to other artists of this movement, Rivera's murals were not merely decorative. Many of his murals were political statements intended to provoke thought and inspiration. You can actually find several of Diego's murals throughout the United States. Bold lines, flat forms, and vivid colors define Rivera's aesthetics. His composition bursts with movement and symbolism, while he humanizes historical and revolutionary figures. Working-class people and indigenous cultures also dominate his scenes. Throughout his murals in Mexico City, he crafted socially conscious statements through the depiction of Mexican culture and history, while also shedding light on the injustice of society. If you haven't already noticed, Diego and Frida were part of the socialist movement of the time and is depicted in several of their artworks. There's more murals here beyond Diego. I've come here to see Diego because I just love his work. But this is a really cool structure too, and just in itself. So it's like every open space has a mural on it. It's just amazing. This is actually the second time I've been here. I was here when in my early 20s when I was going to school at the University of Guadalajara. So even the elevator space is painted. These are all Rivera. Everything, just everything's painted. Arches, everything. Now these aren't Rivera, this is a different artist who I'll put down in the description. That, I don't even have to look at the sign. I mean, I know that's Rivera. I can just tell his work compared to somebody else's. He just had a certain style. A lot of times you saw Frida. And if you're not familiar with Frida Kahlo, that's his wife, who was also an artist. You'll recognize her. She's a very recognizable image. And I can tell this is somebody different too. Where those are Rivera's, definitely. It's amazing. Was it common for him to include Frida in a lot of his paintings, but he also put his imagery in there too. And I'm not sure about this, but that sure looks like him right there. So I'm not sure if that is supposed to be him. But as you can see, he looks different than everybody else in the painting. So very indicative for Rivera to have calla lilies in his artwork. And so this looks like he's down at the farms and the markets. You know, Rivera was, off the top of my head, I can't remember if he was socialist or Marxist or communist. Do you remember, was he communist or was he Marxist? Communist, yeah. So you see the sickle.
These are
and a hammer
from the Union Uprising.
This is from the Union Uprising?
So the white Union.
Rivera was very political. He and Frida.
Oh, this is someone else.
Yeah, this is definitely somebody else.
Let's see. No, it's Rivera.
This is Rivera? Interesting. I'm enjoying just sitting in the courtyard and looking at these Riveras on this bench. He was one of my favorite artists. Not one of my favorite people though. He was not a good person when it came to his wife, Frida Kahlo. So this symbol is not what you think, because it's, for one thing, it's going the wrong direction. So this is a common symbol that you see in Native American art. You also see it in Asian religion. You can see it a lot of times on a Buddhist headstone. So this is representing Sonora, and so it's not what you think. So there's Frida in the middle, dressed in a Russian, like, revolution, I guess, outfit. Notice the red stars that they're all wearing. This is on the 3rd floor. So if memory serves me, she was going to school here in this building, and college, And she met Rivera when he was doing the murals downstairs. So these ones are later. But it was very indicative of him to put her in his murals. So this park is next to the Fine Arts Palace, and it was once the largest Aztec market, and they just built right on top of it. It's a very nice place to come and relax, take a nice walk. This is the Fine Arts Museum at the edge of the park. There are several Diego Rivera murals inside, along with many other well-known artists. In addition, it hosts performing art events and literary events. We ran out of time that day and unfortunately did not tour the museum, but it is well worth a visit. In our hunt for art around Mexico City, we discovered a little-known museum on the top of City Hall. On the top floors, history is on display. The building has served as the seat of city government for centuries. Local government has been meeting in this space since 1532. Though most of the original building was lost to a fire at the end of the 17th century, the seat of Mexico City's government can still be found inside. When you first come to the building and enter, you are a little apprehensive to approach the guards and ask if you can come in. We did so, and they had no problem with us coming in and seeing the museum. You just merely need to ask them. Everything's decorated in marigolds for Dia de Muertos. We're inside a City Hall right now. Ooh. Oh, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be.
That's interesting.
They made it look so big. This is the Hall of the Councils, is the direct translation, and they have a little museum in here. So you can come in and see this beautiful ceiling. So is this like their Supreme Court? So if you come down the hall too, there's walls of paintings of all the viceroys, which is pretty cool. All their portraits. And then it goes back and back. The 1600s and the 1500s. So I'm staying at the UDEM University, and this is the 1968 Olympic Stadium, which we're going to walk over to here soon. There's some beautiful artwork on this campus. And today they're having some kind of dog day, or it's like this on a Sunday all the time, that there's like a ton of dogs. There are beautiful murals and art all over Mexico City, all worth a look-see. Thank you for joining us as we showed you all of our favorite sites in Mexico City. Make sure to check out all our Mexico City videos in our Mexico City playlist. Visiting Mexico City should be on everyone's bucket list.